Welcome to Golf Industry Guru and the Gig Podcast, where we interview the best and brightest golf and hospitality leaders on the planet. On today's episode, you will learn some proven real-world solutions that'll help you and your team solve some of your biggest golf business challenges. So stick around for some tips, tools, and training to get you, your people, and your business powered on. Here's your host, James Cronk.
Well, good day, Golf Industry Guru listeners. It is a podcast today, and we are talking about retail and the importance of increasing sales, increasing revenue, training your team, and how you can make your retail golf shop the best that it can be. And with us today is the Sales Ninja Academy guru, Rick Maddison. Rick, good morning, I guess, wherever we are. It's morning where I am. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. It's a little bit snowy where I am, but you know what? It's a great day regardless.
Awesome. Fantastic. And so, Rick, thanks so much for joining me today and for sharing some of your wisdom with our listeners. And first of all, tell me a little bit about how you have come to this kind of role of being a retail ninja guru expert. Tell me a bit more about that.
So I started a marketing company years ago, and what happened was there was just a quick story about in this case, a furniture store where I did, and I'm not going to be modest, it was an excellent marketing campaign. So all these people were coming into the store, and I sat there and I watched the salespeople engage people. And later the next day, the furniture owner asked me to come back in, and he said, the sale did not go well. We didn't have any really uptick in sales, and I blame you. And I said, well, hold on there, cowboy. I saw what your salespeople were doing, and they weren't engaging the customers. They weren't asking questions. And so I quickly realized if I was going to stay employed, I was going to have to start creating a customer service process. So, of course, what we're talking about today is the golf industry. And of course, I had several golf industry clients that asked me to create a process for them. So the marketing was one end, but I knew I had to, where the rubber hits the road is where the people come in. And that's why I had to develop my own system.
Well, and it's so true in the sense, marketing gets them in the door, but if they don't get sold, nothing's going to move the needle. And, we've just gone through we're kind of coming to the end of 2020, obviously, and most places in the world, certainly golf courses have seen an increase of demand of golfers, not everywhere, but certainly lots of places, as we've kind of realized that somehow a pandemic was the best thing to happen to get more golfers up in the golf course. But what's interesting, I think, is how we captured that increase of rounds to equal increase in retail sales. And that's what we're going to talk about today is how to make sure that you increase the transaction, the revenue per transaction. And so tell me a little bit, Rick, about what you think are some of the qualities of a great golf shop. First of all, just in general, from a retail standpoint, if you're a club owner or an operator and you're walking into your shop to assess it, what would be some of the things that you think are some of the fundamentals before we even get into talking about a salesperson?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the shops that have done well, where I've given them the tools and they are absolutely interested in consistency. They want a great golf experience for the people coming in, no matter if Bob's working, Susie's working, or anyone else is working. Like, they want a consistency, and that's why we create a process across the board. And we have people that they check in, they do sales contests, they constantly work with their team, so they build a good culture in there. Because I can give you tools, but spoiler alert, if you don't work the program, guess what? Nothing will happen. I can promise you that. So that's the biggest thing. And the other thing I wanted to touch on is the people. So I talk about insane empathy. So handicap is a wonderful thing, and having a beautiful golf swing is a wonderful thing. But actually, if people aren't insanely interested in the customer and their lives and their family and who they are and how their game is, then you know what? They are just holding down a piece of rug in the retail space for me. So that's why I always talk about who are you attracting, and make sure you're attracting people that are actually interested in other people, because those make the greatest salespeople of all time.
Well, and it's sad to say, Rick, that even today, I get a chance to travel around the world and very fortunately get to go visit some golf shops in different places. And I still walk into a golf shop to see the pro or the salesperson behind the counter leaning on their elbows, watching the Golf Channel, seeing who's winning the Masters or who's playing today, talking about the 300-yard drive, and ignoring me walking around the shop looking for a shirt or a memento or a souvenir or whatever it might be. And it still happens. And I mean, I think that's one of the most amazing things about our business is that if you were a truly like a, I know you do some work also with car dealerships and with jewelry stores and other retail places. When a customer walks in the door, that's your invitation to make a sale. And so often, customers walk into a golf shop and they can just be ignored somehow. So that's a great part. Insanely empathetic and insanely interested in the customer, right, is what you're kind of talking about. Tell me more about, yeah, please.
Well, what's interesting to me is, and we've all been on trips, golf trips, and we spend a whole bunch of money booking the flights, renting the car, renting clubs, getting hotels. We've spent all this money to get there, and our first initial moment. So we're talking about all the branding that is associated with that golf course. So all the marketing, everything to get that person to that spot. The thousands of dollars, well, millions at times, that golf industry has spent to get that customer there. They're standing in the golf shop, and the guy's leaning on the counter, and he goes, "Yeah, what can we do for you?" And he's mildly interested in the fact that you are interrupting him with his, Candy Crush or whatever he's doing, he or she. So that's the part that always vexed me, was how come it seems to be even more so in the golf industry, where you have people that have great swings, great game. They get hired first for the pro shop because we think that's the person that needs to be purveying the hard goods and the soft goods. But like I said, there's been a bit of a shift right now, which is, I want somebody that's interested in being better and curious about a better way. And I think that gets me up in the morning, is the fact that there's these people out there that have shifted gears, and they have people in that industry that are smiling when people come in. They're actively engaged, and they want to help them. That's the exciting thing.
So tell me then, so let's say we've got the right people. We've got a great salesperson, girl or guy. They're in the shop. They care about the customer. What are some things that we should, as owners, operators, managers, what are some of the things that we should make sure that is happening to increase that transaction, to get to increase that sale, to get more revenue? That's what it's about.
So I think the biggest thing is whenever I have floor leaders, so these are people that a lot of managers, they're pulled in so many different directions, and they're doing so many different things, and the retail seems to get the short end of the stick. So what I often see is the really successful shops, these managers, they stop in and they work on the floor a little bit, and they build this culture of, hey, I'll do anything I will ask you to do. In fact, I will enthusiastically do it. They will stop. They will talk to members. They will talk to green fee players. They'll talk to anyone, and they will show that we're going to get around the counter. Now, COVID distancing right now and everything else, but we're going to get around the counter. We're going to engage people. I think that's number one. Number two is they build a process and they work the process. So if one of the things is, we're going to ask everyone that comes in, how's your game doing? And that might open up another series of questions into, okay, well, we do have actually some rain gear because I saw the weather forecast, and, there's always something that could be talked about. And if done in the right way, every round every person should at least get some sort of question or some sort of query about, either their game or what's happening that day. I mean, I don't know if I want to tell you the story, but I actually got great service in Wal-Mart. So
I believe you. So, you probably got one of the volunteers there that just loves people and loves to talk and was interested in you being in the store. Is that what happened? Or tell me more. It was
a golf course in the States, and there's a lot of water on this course, Coeur d'Alene. And the Walmart I went into, I was looking around for different things because I showed up without anything as usual. And so I was looking for golf clubs and everything else. And this guy came around the corner. He says, "Where are you playing?" And I said, "Well, actually, Coeur d'Alene course, Island Green." And he goes, "Oh, there's a lot of water on that course, isn't there?" And he goes, "Well, tell you what, I've got a ball retriever." And he says, I think it's actually going to pay for itself with your round. He goes, how errant is the swing? And I'm standing in the aisle of Walmart going, wow, this guy is crushing it. So I bought more golf balls, gloves, a ball retriever, and the guy was enthusiastic that I was going to play. Like, he was excited for me that you get to play this course and it's on my bucket list. He goes, "I've only heard stories, but man, it's amazing." So this guy actually hadn't even played the course, but he knew that there was enough water there that it would, with I'm a lefty and I a little leaky off the old tee. So it was funny because he was engaged with me, and I walked out of there with a big smile on my face, and I spent more than I would have.
And obviously, I mean, we have the challenge in our industry where we want the consumer to buy from us in the shop. But the reality is that golfers now have choices, and you were a traveling golfer. We all try to support golf shops when we go in them, and we get that memento, or we get that souvenir, we get that hat, we get that shirt with the logo on it. But there's competition, and when the reason why the big box golf stores are around is because we have somehow not really delivered all the time when it comes to selection and choice and options and service and sales. There's no doubt about it. When you go into a big box golf store, the people that are there, they're salespeople, and they're trying to, whether they're making commission, whether they're making, getting their compensation, but they're salespeople. So in the golf shop, and when we're talking about, the script, I guess that's one of the things you're talking about there, is making sure that the staff have a list of questions to open up that conversation. Would that be fair to say?
Well, I get a lot of complaints from golf shop managers who say, "You know what, my people just don't have that set of skills. They're just not interested in talking to strangers." And so my rebuttal is, well, do you? Are you engaging people? And I find that if people don't have a process or an experience to follow, it's like giving them a manual but not ever reading it or going through it with them. If we give them the tools and we have a process, that online training process that will help them, but if they have that process and they still don't engage them, then we as managers need to, call on them and say, "Listen, that's not acceptable what just happened. And we have to figure out a way to manage the gap of what I need to see happen, what you just did." So, but giving them the tools gives them the confidence, because it's like saying, "Okay, well, here's how the till works. Here's how the software works. Here's, what? Go to town. Just answer the phone, everything else." And they don't give them any proper tools. That's when you have fall down, and that's when you have people that don't want to walk out from the counter. They don't want to help people because they don't really know. I don't really know what that driver does, and I've heard it in so many stores. How am I expected to sell when I don't know how to? So it does come back on us, and we have to take responsibility to give them the tools. And once they have the tools, then work with them. And then when that happens, members, green people, they all love it. They all love the fact that somebody is actually talking to them and making their game, their life, even gift buying better.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So how do we kind of we've all experienced that kind of aggressive salesperson, so to speak, and we've all kind of, know when its inventory is on sale, or there's the rack of shirts and clothes that's outside the golf shop hanging up with the 50% off on it. What are some best practices when it comes to making that sale in the shop. You come up from behind the counter, you're asking someone about what do they need? Do they need a glove? Do they need some golf balls? Do they need, rainwear? And the customer says, no, I don't think so. Or, tell me what you have, or what's your cheapest? Like, what are some best practices for the team to make that sale and to add that extra purchase?
So no matter what, you have to be an interesting person. Interesting people read, they listen to news, no matter if they're not really a news person, but they at the very least walk into the store with a little bit of information. So what I mean is going into a long weekend. Everyone loves talking about their long weekend. So, hey, what plans do you have for the long weekend? My biggest thing is I was at a jewelry store in Maui and I saw this like diamond encrusted Rolex. It was awful. And apologies to anyone who owns one of those. Like the diamond encrusted Rolexes. I love Rolexes. And I was looking at it, and the salesperson came up and asked me a direct merchandise question, which was, isn't that gorgeous? And I'm sitting there going, that is the most god-awful thing I've ever seen. I never said that, but she instantly lost trust with me. So what I'm challenging people to do is you walk into the shop armed with ideas about vacations, any kind of national events that have an upside to them, anything at all that makes it clever and timely. So if I walk up to you and say, hey, that's a beautiful shirt, where did you get it? Instantly, that's a compliment and you're going to talk to me. But if I walk up and say, do you need a rain jacket? Probably not. But I'm going to start a little bit of a conversation, and then we're going to start working up into, how is your golf game? Where did you last play? How did that go? Tell me about your score. How's the short game? Whatever it is, but I'm going to be engaged with you. And I can guarantee, because I've worked a lot of different sales floors and worked with a lot of different teams, if they are interested in people and they ask these clever, timely questions, start a conversation, all of a sudden they're walking out with anything from rain gear to clubs to hats to shoes, anything. That's the part that blows me away, is the stuff works.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and as opposed to, what's your tea time? That's what, when someone walks in the shop, hi guys, what's your tea time? Are you for today? It's like, oh, shoot me. And but it's we're in all seriousness aside, it's not easy to. I've done it. I've struggled with it in managing golf courses and managing teams and in trying to get people behind the shop to be more engaging. I think I always say it comes back to hiring. It comes back to the very, very beginning. If you're going to have an opportunity to hire someone that is passionate about something, because if they have passion about something, they can eventually have passion about what you're doing and about what you're trying to talk about. And as you said, interesting people create interesting conversations, creates trust, and then therefore ultimately starts to have the conversation about the sale, right? And about making that happen.
And the part that gets me is the same golf shop owners come back to me every single year because they get it. They're interested in moving the needle. They're interested in being good operators. It's the ones that you walk into that really have that culture that is a little bit iffy. They never come knocking. They just, so that's the part that always is vexing to me is, wow, the people that are actually doing a pretty good job always want to get better. And that's what I find interesting is they know that if they have a great retail experience for their members or the Greenfee players in the retail golf shop, that's going to leak into a whole bunch of different areas for experience. And that's the beautiful thing is people will talk about that place where they purchase something way more than if the guy looks up and says, hey, what time are you off? That's what.
Well, and I think it's what I liked what you just mentioned there is that I find in my travels a bit that, retail, guys, and I've said this the same thing to clients or to owners and operators, retail, how much, every 12 minutes or 10 minutes, that's $400 just walked out the door. If no one walked off the first tee, every 10 minutes, that's $400. So we have to have the focus on filling the first tee. We have to have the focus on ensuring that, we've got members, we've got green fee players, we've got golf course. You're going to make way more money every 10 minutes if that first tee is full. And retail can sometimes be viewed as being a bit of a, someone steals one driver out of the golf shop and you got to sell 50 shirts to pay for that. I mean, it's not easy to make a lot of profit in retail, but when you think about shrinkage and you think about inventory and dead inventory and effort, et cetera, et cetera. But having a great retail experience creates that customer loyalty, that customer experience, that member pride. As you said, there's so many spin-offs that just come from having a great retail experience that's not just measured in, taking your dollar per retail from $10 to $11 over the course of a season.
And that's the interesting thing is what I've noticed with people that take the course, there's communication tips and tools that they use at home with their girlfriends, with their spouses, with their mates of all different descriptions. If you become a good communicator and you can move an idea forward and be an influencer, even on the retail floor, the sky is the limit. I have a lot of past students of mine that sell real estate. One guy sells airplanes. They sell cars. Let's face it, retail can be a place where they develop and they learn and they grow. And then maybe they do go off to something else. Hopefully they do. And they know that their experience at that pro shop taught them something that they are able to go forth and like I said, sell an idea, sell a concept, sell a product. So whenever people have a place where they're growing people and they're developing people, the people are happier. You get far more retention because this is a place where I actually get to learn something. And I think that's what's lost in this whole thing is, we're trying to move goods out the door at full pop for sure, but we're also trying to teach you something. And I think retention is a big thing and the talent war is real. So if you get somebody really good and you don't give them any tools, well, you're probably going to lose them because the golf shop down the way is probably going to try and teach them something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, and luckily, Rick, you've been kind enough to offer to provide some more education information. We're going to do some webinars with you, maybe a retail course training, sales training that our Golf Industry Guru members can take and can learn from in more detail with that kind of, going down each of the steps and breaking down this process, which I think is fantastic. And so we look forward to having that on our platform. But before we kind of finish off the podcast today, when you talk about kind of process and some steps there, we talked about, the staff being engaged and having the right people and having that script and those questions to start the conversation. What would be, from an owner operator standpoint, what would be another one or two parts of the process of being able to kind of increase that retail sales, that transaction per round? What would be a couple other steps that an owner operator manager would want to ensure that their golf shop was following in the process standpoint?
Well, I think from a standpoint of, I had a story of my local club. They were having some issues with what I call resting face. So resting face is when you walk in and the person is relaxed and they seem to be frowning. And that is the first impression of the golf shop, is this person behind the counter is frowning. So what the manager did was he walked around. What he started to do was with his iPhone, walked into the golf shop with the iPhone record button on and said, "Hey guys, hey girls, what are we doing?" And he'd show them the video of how their faces looked, because we don't really realize, I almost liken it to a barbecue. If James is coming over to my house for a barbecue and I open up the front door and you got potato salad in your hand and you open up the front door and I go, "Hey James, good to see you." And I'm happy to see you. And my whole energy goes up. I mean, why can't we deliver that for the people that walk into our golf shop? Like if I felt that when I walked in, I'm going to want to be a part of this because that excites me. Maybe I don't get that from my spouse at home, but I might get it from my golf shop. That's what I need. That's what I want. So just from the onset, I mean, I can get into, mirroring and psychology of distancing and a whole bunch of other technical terms, but we're not going to do that right now. I just want for a lot of operators to understand that first moment, be part of the barbecue. Like have a big barbecue in your pro shop. Like when people walk in, they go, "Hey, welcome. Hi, welcome to blank." That would be phenomenal. If all the golf shops in the world started doing just that, we would see an uptick in experience and joy, and it would change the world.
Yeah, no, it's such a, it's so true, and when you think about the retail stores you go to, the restaurants you go to, the different types of places that you go to, the Disneylands of the world, the hotel chains of the world that are known for their service and for their experience. I always used to say that, great service doesn't come just by happenstance. There's a system, there's a process, there's training, there's the scripts, there's tools, there's accountability. In some of the other talks that we'll do, Rick, I talk a lot about the importance of having a critical eye, that we as managers and owners, operators, we get a little bit lazy. We can sometimes get a little bit lazy of walking around our facility and not looking at everything with a critical eye and looking at it from, that member's first experience. A brand new member just joined the club and they're walking around the facility, walking into the restaurant, walking into the banquet hall, walking into the golf shop, coming across the golf course, maintenance work or whatever it might be. What's their first experience? And because that, as we always say, first impressions is first impressions. That's what keeps it going. And so we have to continue to have a critical eye, I think, in looking at our business and demanding better every day, demanding better. And I think that's what you're talking about. You're talking about, I love that about walking in the shop with your iPhone video going and showing the staff about what the experience looks like, or walking through the golf shop and looking at the larges in the front and the extra smalls in the back. Well, that's not how it works. You got to have a standard, you got to have a system, and you got to make sure it's like that every day.
Yeah, and it is going to change, and I think a lot of places. I mean, we did have a wonderful year this past year, and I think a lot of people rediscovered golf. And when I was speaking to different operators, I said, "So what does that look like going forward?" And they said, "Well, we want to keep it going." And I said, "Well, okay, now what are you going to like? What made you successful was you had the traffic, but think of the conversion. Like I still saw racks of clothing at the end of the golf season at 50% off and 80% off. And to sell them at full pop with a more engaged retail staff, and I'm talking about retail staff here, in your pro shop, you got to almost change the mindset a little bit. They're not just booking green fees and you're doing a lot more here. And I think that's the key is just, I would love it if those racks were empty at the end of the season. Like you didn't have to blow everything out because you had massive sell through because you had a more engaged workforce.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And we all hope that 2021 is going to be, a bit of a different season. But these are relevant messages that you're sharing, whether or not we're in COVID, out of COVID, a busy year, a quiet year, the core principles of having a good shop and having staff that sell, that are engaged in selling, is common anywhere. Rick, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. We're going to definitely have you back for more discussions. I love the information that you share. I know that the golf shops that you work with are love you and keep you coming back and doing training with their team and their staff, because it's an ongoing process. I know our listeners can learn more about you by visiting the Sales Ninja Academy or Rick Maddison, or clicking on any of the links that we have on Golf Industry Gurus. So thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much, James. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Gig Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode and mostly that you learned a few things that will help you improve your business. Join us next time as we continue to bring you the best and brightest golf and hospitality leaders on the planet. Thanks for listening.